Hi guys, welcome back to Herky the Cavalier's channel. I'm here today with Herky and Milton. Today I want to talk about having two dogs versus having one. So this is a pretty unexpected video. Honestly, I sat down today with the intention of filming a dog training video, but turns out it was going to be such a longer video than just sitting down and filming that. So I did film a bit, but the rest of that video will come soon. So if you do recognize my outfit later on, it is the Hi Joey Co video that I wanted to film. Anyways, this was a highly requested video, but I never got the chance to do it. So I thought, you know what, now's the time, why not? It's gonna be a fun video to look at in December, and it's gonna be like a nice throwback video as well, because I'm gonna do my best to include as much memories and archives of Herky. So one of the most common questions I get on Instagram and on YouTube is what made me decide to have two dogs? What's the difference having two dogs versus one? How did I introduce Herky to Milton and Milton to Herky, etc.? So today I'm gonna cover all that as best I can. So I'm going to start off with talking about why I decided to have two Cavaliers, and the most obvious reason is I love Cavaliers. If you guys know me at all, you know I'm obsessed with Cavaliers, and this is just, Herky was just the beginning of my obsession. And as soon as I got her, I was sold. I was like, I'm going to have Cavaliers forever. And if any of you have Cavaliers, you can probably relate that Cavaliers are like chips. You can't only have one. Am I right? So when I got Herky, I immediately knew that I wanted to get a second one. The question was when. And of course, there's a lot of different schools of thought as to when you should get a second Cavalier and the sex of your second Cavalier as well. I decided to go with two females just because I personally like females. I think I covered this before. And I know a lot of you will say as well that like your male calves are more in love with you and they're so sweet, etc. But this is a personal choice. It's nothing against your male Cavalier. I just personally don't like to have a dog with a penis. As simple as that. So I decided to go with two females. I just love having two because they're so cute. Honestly guys, I'm so in love with my dogs, and I think you know this very well. One of our best videos of all time on this channel is what it's like to have a Cavalier. And if you've watched that video, you know that having a Cavalier is like having a little shadow. And now that I have two, it's like having two little shadows. I'm a very dependent person, and I don't like to be alone. I'm not an independent person at all, so I love having a dog that follows me everywhere. Some people like dogs that are more independent, that do their thing, but I personally love dogs that do this, that just want to lie with me, that just want to do everything with me. And Milton is the embodiment of a Cavalier because she always wants to be on me. Always, always, always. So I really love that about them. I got Milton maybe 2 years after getting Herky, and she was my wedding present from me to me. So Herky we got in 2014. She was my moving back home gift from Andy because I left my job as an attorney in Toronto and I decided to come back to Montreal. So he got me Herky, and then 2 years later when we got married, I got Milton. I personally think 2 years is a good gap between your two Cavaliers just because you can get over the puppy phase and you can get your first one trained well so that the second one is trained easier. So when you have one, usually your second one will look up to the first one for the behavior, etc., and the training will be faster. That's one school of thought, and that's the one I went with. The other train of thought is if you're gonna get two Cavaliers, might as well get over the puppy phase in one shot. So some people just get two Cavaliers at once. And honestly, I think that is a very fun idea. I see a lot of people on Instagram and around adopting litter mates. And honestly, for my future Cavaliers, that's something I might consider, just getting two at once. And then they're just the bestest friends from day one. So this is something that I would highly consider. And if you're considering getting two Cavaliers, maybe consider just getting two at once as well. But if you do have a puppy and he's more difficult to train, etc., I would wait a bit longer than 2 years just so the behavior is exactly where you want before getting the second one. Another note on that is, however, if you wait too long before getting your second puppy, your first one might be too old at that point in order to tolerate a puppy. Herky was 2 years old, and I feel like it took her not too long to get used to Milton. But if, let's say, you get a puppy and your first dog is 7, 8, 9 years old, the energy level is probably not the same as a 2-year-old Cavalier. So Herky was 2 years old when we got Milton, and I think that was a really good age for her to get a puppy. Are you okay? You want to leave, huh? No, she wants to leave me. Stay here, Herky. I want you to stay here. That aspect is covered. I'm going to talk about how we introduced Herky to Milton and Milton to Herky. When we got Milton, we did not go visit her before bringing her home. So the day we met her is the day we brought her home, and we brought Herky that day with us to pick up Milton. That day, it just seemed like Herky was not really understanding what was happening. But a really good trick for you to introduce the puppy to your older dog is to hold the puppy and make your other dog smell him or her. That way, you make your dog understand that this is your puppy and I am presenting the puppy to you. This is my puppy, and then it's going to be part of the pack. So when we got Milton, that's what I did. I was holding Milton, I was letting Herky sniff her, but Herky was just sniffing a bit, and then she went to do her own thing. It's like she didn't really understand that this was our puppy because we didn't do this process at home, if that makes sense. We were at the breeder's house at the time, but I feel like it really sunk into her that the puppy was going home when she smelled Milton in the crate in the car, and that was sort of a shock for her. At home, it did kind of take her by surprise, and personally, I feel like it took her a long time to get used to having another puppy. She was very upset at me. I feel like our dynamic changed from being the only child to being a big sister. She was really upset at me for a long time, and I feel like it's important when you get another dog to not let your first dog feel neglected or replaced. So we still did a lot of one-on-one activities with Herky, and I feel like it's not that difficult when you have a puppy because the puppy will be spending a lot of time in the crate for crate training, for sleep, etc. So we still got to do a lot of one-on-one activities with Herky, which I think is essential for them to still feel loved and still feel like they are your first child and your number one. So another tip for you to introduce them to being with each other is to do all the common activities together. For example, walking and eating, that has to be done together in order for them to feel like they're a part of the same pack. So from day one, all their feedings were done at the same time, and we did adjust Herky's feeding time according to Milton's puppy schedule time. So puppies tend to eat 3 to 4 times a day, and Herky as an adult, she used to eat twice a day. So when we got Milton, she switched to eating 3 to 4 times a day. So we just switched up her food portions in order to match up with that schedule. Just because I personally feel like it wouldn't feel fair for your dog to see a new puppy eating more, meaning like eating more often. They're dogs. They don't understand that the portion is different, but it's not fair for them to see that the puppy is eating more. So that's why I felt like I should feed them at the same time, just so they feel part of the same pack. I also did all their walkings at the same time so that they're on the same schedule and everything, and that they are part of the same pack. So to this day, now they are still on the same feeding schedule, and they are even on the same poop schedule. I swear this is hilarious. Like every time Romeo's mom used to babysit Herky and Milton, pre-COVID obviously, she used to laugh each walk because she's like, they poop at the exact same time. And it's true, it's hilarious because they do everything at the same time. They eat, they sleep, they wake up, they walk. So obviously their poop is going to be at the same time, right? And I do love that because I can only use 1 poop bag instead of 2. So it's good for the environment too. Okay, Herky. I feel like this was a bit tight for her, so it's okay. So that's basically how we got Herky and Milton used to each other. We did a lot of... Oh, Herky, stay there, please. Stay. Good girl. We did a lot of activities together. I did a lot of playtime as much as I could, including both of them together so that they felt like they're part of the same family. Other than Herky being mad at me, I still think that she got accustomed to Milton relatively fast, although I still feel to this day that she would prefer being an only child. Just because Milton is a puppy and she still has that puppy behavior, although she is 4 years old. She still runs after Herky and bites Herky's ears, etc. So sometimes I feel like Herky is just overwhelmed with not being alone, especially her being so independent. So there's a lot of times where, let's say Andy goes to work, I'm going to send off Herky with Andy alone and stay with Milton at home, or vice versa. So we try as much as possible to still do some activities separately, just so that Herky can have a mental and physical vacation from Milton. So I think that's important if you have 2 dogs, just to give them their bit of alone time as well. So one of the biggest questions I get regarding having 2 dogs is, what's the main difference of having 2 dogs versus 1? Is it much more difficult? And my immediate answer is always no, because I'm used to having 2, and everything I do for one, I do for the other at the same time. So overall, I don't feel like it's that difficult. However, now that we do one-on-one time with both of them and we do separate the time, when you have 1 dog, it is so much easier. So I'm sorry if I answered you before and I said that it's the same thing. It's like you sort of get used to taking care of 2 at all times, so then you forget that having 1 adult dog is so much easier than having 2, honestly. Yes, granted, you do all the activities together. You feed both at the same time, you walk both at the same time, so on that aspect, it's not that much more difficult. But you do still have 2 to monitor at all times. Let's say you walk, I'm taking a walk. Yes, I'm walking both at the same time, but there's 2 of them yanking me. And there's 2 of them that might eat crap off the floor, so you need to watch for both of them. And then there's 2 of them eating, so you have to make sure that they don't fight over the same food. So there's a lot of things that are different when you have 2. So yes, you do a lot of the same chores and activities at the same time, but you still need to supervise double and do things double. Of course, that's the double expense. There's double supervision. There's double the cost in general. So that's the main differences in having 2. It is more work, obviously. So you have to be prepared with that, but there's nothing like having 2 dogs. Having 2 Cavaliers is just the cutest thing ever. There's just always somebody that wants to snuggle you. There's always somebody that wants to love you. And oftentimes, they're gonna want it at the same time. So you're just showered with love all the time. And it's the best thing ever. They are so precious. And I seriously cannot imagine my life without having 2 Cavaliers. I do also get the question often of, do you want to get a 3rd? And as much as we want to and as much as we love Cavaliers, it's not feasible for us to have 3, just because walking 3 is such a pain. We travel a lot, not anymore because of COVID, but we used to travel a lot, and just traveling with 3 dogs is so difficult that having a 3rd would be nearly impossible. But trust me, it's not the envy that is lacking, because I would love to have 3 Cavaliers so much. And also, there's a lot of things that are more difficult with having 2 dogs instead of 1. Like when you want to spend one-on-one time with them, let's say for training purposes, it's really hard when you have another one just lurking around. So let's say I want to train Milton to do something. I would literally have to lock Herky in a room in order to have that one-on-one time with Milton, in order to even take photos or to do training. So they really get used to being together. So when you have to put one away to do something else, they're really confused about that. So overall, those are the points I would like to cover regarding having 2 dogs versus 1. Would I recommend you getting 2 dogs? I would recommend you having 2 dogs if you are comfortable with the training level of your first dog, if you can financially support it, and if you feel emotionally ready to have a second. There's nothing quite like having 2. It's absolutely precious, and it's very special. But if you cannot take care of the second dog as well as you take care of the first, I feel like it wouldn't be fair to your second one and to the first one, because you're going to be dividing up the time, you're going to be adding expenses, etc. So if the lifestyle of your dog is going to change by having a second one, then I wouldn't necessarily get a second one, and that wouldn't be the right thing and the fair thing to do to your dogs. But if all of those are checked, yes, of course, I would highly recommend you getting a second dog. I think it's absolutely precious to see 2 of them together, to see them play. Unfortunately, I'm very sad to see that Herky and Milton don't play anymore. And I don't know if they're so like blah about each other now. They don't play anymore. I don't know if it's because they're 2 females and there's that kind of rivalry together. I tend to see male and female combos playing more, and I don't know if it's their personality. We have other friends like Juliet and Rose. Granted, they are younger, but they do still play together so much. So I don't know if it's just Herky that is like sick of Milton and she doesn't want to play, because Milton would love to play with her. It's just Herky. Anyways, I feel like this video is going all over the place. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do want a second part or more information about this, do let me know. I'm sure I can dig up more information of what I can talk to you about. I hope you enjoyed this b-roll, and it's sort of like a throwback video, which was really fun for me to do. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you're new, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed it. For watching, we love you so much, and we'll see you soon.